All right.
All right.
Good morning,
Good afternoon
good evening,
and
and
welcome to
welcome.
our webinar.
That's right. As our regular audience knows, we're Claire and Hanny, and we are broadcasting from different parts in New Brunswick. I guess Hanny, I'll start off. So my name is Claire Kelly, and I'm the International Immigration Advisor at NBCC. Um, but if people have been watching, I'm broadcasting still in Moncton, but in a different room in Moncton. um, I moved out of my apartment and I bought a house. This is not my house. My house does not have internet yet, so I am broadcasting from a co-working space in Moncton. It's a very cool space, and they actually have a small room that they set up to do podcast episodes. So I feel very special being in an official studio here. So that's what you see behind me is like soundproofing. So a pretty appropriate place to have a webinar, I guess. So that's me and it is sunny outside, sunny Moncton today. Hanny, where are you calling from?
I'm from sunny Fredericton and I'm
Nice.
broadcasting from my home. And yeah, today I think we have very special webinars because we receive numbers of questions about fall deferral and other stuff, and we're gonna talk about this today. So please listen carefully, and if there is any questions that you want to ask, please type them and we will get back to them a little bit later.
As
So
always, yes.
yeah, as always, I mean, Claire always starts with the good news, and I always try to share the good news, but yeah. So what's the good news for today? Do we have a good news for
We
students?
do. Yes, we have. I have two pieces of good news, I guess. So the first piece of good news is still about New Brunswick. So we have entered into the yellow zone of recovery. Um, I don't know if that was the same as last time. Were we still in the orange zone last time? Maybe this is the first.
Well, if by last time, if you mean 2 weeks ago, I would
Yeah,
say so. But
yeah, I
yeah,
think yeah.
the last 2 week we in a yellow zone.
Yeah, so oh, I think it was right after our webinar because it was a Friday that was announced. Yeah, uh so New Brunswick is now in the yellow zone, which is of course there's the red zone, which is complete lockdown, the orange zone, and now in New Brunswick, the yellow zone, which means that we still have a low number of cases here in New Brunswick. And so that means that our our communities are able to open up a little bit more. Um, it does mean that businesses, some restaurants, some schools are able to open up with restrictions in place. So still keeping social distancing measures. So at the co-working space that I'm working at, each of the desks, the individual desks, are 2 meters apart. And there can only be a limited number of people in a space, right? So gatherings are still in less than 10 people, and then in a space like this, there are maximum capacities too. So society has started to open up a bit more, which is good. You know, Lots of folks still wearing masks around, washing their hands, keeping distance, but things are starting to open up. So that's the good news
Yep.
for New Brunswick. And what else has opened up? This is my second piece. Is September intake 2021
Yep. It's already
open
open. Yep.
opened on June 1st.
That's
So
correct.
Henny, maybe you can speak a bit more to that and your pieces of update. So
Sure. Thank you, Claire. So as you may know, June and the September intake 2021 is open, so you can apply, and the same applies to January intake 2021. So if you're thinking about applying for the next year, it's already open. Just please keep in mind that our admission team is accepting application, but they will start to review your application only in October. So if you're expecting to get your letter of acceptance, you can apply now, and then in October, our admission office will review your application for the next September 2021.
That's right.
And yep, that is from my side.
And we have something else that's
Yep,
open,
we
which is,
got something else to open because students ask me how the fall
yes.
2020 is going to look like, and as we promised, our academic team work really hard to put all the policy and adjust to this unprecedented times. So let me just share my screen with you so we can see the message from our academic team. Just okay. Can you see my screen, Claire?
Yes.
So how is the fall 2020, September 2020 gonna look like? As we all know that COVID-19 impact all aspects of our life, and of course it also applies to the way we learn. And for fall 2022, academic delivery is about balance, consists of a blend of online theory and in-person practical learning. And what does it mean for students? There will be combination of theoretical online classes and on campus or on campus practice. So as outlined on our website, all theoretical instruction will take place online with instruction leading innovation online simulation. And all practical instruction will take place on campus, led by instructors in dedicated classroom, shops, and labs, as we have successfully been doing it for approximately 20 students over the last few weeks. And with this, students will ask me, how do I know if my class is going to be online or I should, attend in person? This is yet to be decided. You will receive the communication because some classes requires only online portion. Some classes would require you to be physically in Canada, but right now there is adjustment. Maybe you're going to have theoretical part first, and then you switch to practical piece of it. So that is the news from me. And also on this page, you can see the frequently asked questions in terms of the methods of delivery, the equipment that you may need, because for online learning, as you imagine, you would need to have the laptop computer, and if you click computer specification, you see what's the requirements for the computer for different programs. And yep, I hope this information is useful. You find this information useful. And as Claire also mentioned last times, that international students who take online courses can still apply for postgraduate work permit. Can you shed light on this?
Yes, that's definitely what I'm going to talk about in the immigration updates. So,
Great.
yeah, and actually, could I share my screen? Would that be
Sure.
possible?
Yep, it is.
Okay. So, actually, I won't share it yet, just because. So, what I want to say first is, so in regards to the deferral option that you just shared there, Hanny, right?
Not
So,
deferral. Deferral is coming up. Yeah, I
oh,
just
sorry,
talked
that's,
about for.
oh, okay, sorry. So that's
Yeah,
okay. Then you should talk about
yeah,
deferral right now because
yeah.
that's, I want to talk about immigration and it is related to
Okay,
deferrals.
okay.
So,
I will cover. Let me just share my screen
mhm.
because Claire already disclosed the news.
Sorry,
So yeah.
sorry, I was making sure that I had the right website open. So, yeah.
Okay. So
So
this
that's
is
what that's what
yeah
classes will
about
look like. Yeah, what to
for
expect in the
September.
fall. But
For deferral, though,
for
we got
deferral,
enormous amount of emails. I'm just wondering if you can see my screen right now,
yeah,
Claire.
yeah.
So this information is outlined on NBCC website. If you go under admission and finance and click introduction here, it will lead you to different applications. So in light of pandemic and we receiving enormous emails about deferral application because of COVID-19 and the impacts that it has on our lives. In many countries, the airport has been shut down. It also impact on getting the study permit and coming to Canada, because Canada also closed the borders. And as you may know, that our past deferral policy was we can only defer your application if or in case you get your study permit refused. In this case, we modify our deferral policy, and as you can see on our website, eligible international applicants now have one-time opportunity to defer their application to the next academic year for the same campus and program. So it means you can only defer your application to the same program. You cannot change it, but you can defer it for the same program. And deferral request must be submitted by June 30th. And requests that come after this date may be considered on case-by-case basis, because we want to proceed all this deferral as fast as we can. So if you're thinking about if you'd like to defer your application for September 2021 because you think you're not going to make it due to COVID-19, which is totally understandable, please read the eligibility requirements, and here is a form I will guide you through. So the eligible applicants, the applicants who has been admitted to fall 2020 and have paid the $500 confirmation fee. So if you've been accepted for fall 2020 and you confirm your seat by paying $500 confirmation fee, and you feel you're not going to make it due to different reasons that we've been impacted, please, you would need to submit application form on the website. I will touch basically a little bit later about this. And applicants who have been admitted to fall 2020 but have not paid the confirmation fee, please note that applicants deferral will be provided a payment extension until September 1st. So if you've been accepted and in many countries banks has been shut down and it impacts students financially, the deadline for confirmation has been extended to September 1st. And if applicants who don't pay the confirmation fee by this date will be withdrawn. So if you have not paid your confirmation fee, you have time until September, and if you won't pay until September, your application will be withdrawn. However, if you pay $500, you've been accepted, you can submit the deferral form. And also very important to understand that the confirmation fee is non-refundable and will be deferred to the next academic year. However, if you already paid, part of your tuition and you would like to request refunds because you're not coming this fall, you can send the request for refund by this link. It's pretty straightforward. You just fill it out the form and you just submit your request for refund. And so what's also important that students ask me if I going to ask for deferral, do I need to pay any fee, or do I need to resend the documents? And it's as it states on our website, different applicant status will be reinstated using the old date time stamps, and no application fee will be requested. For fall 2020, application will start being processed in October 2020. So this means if you would like to defer your application, all you need to do just submit request. It's free of charge. You don't have to send us documents, and your application will be reviewed in October. So our admission team will not send you letter of acceptance right away, because by deferring application, it means you're not going to be accepted automatically, because our admission team will need to check if there is seats available and program, and other things. So you won't be accepted automatically. You will be evaluated again based on the documents that you provided. And waitlisted applicants, and also there is a question about waitlisted because some of the student has been waitlisted, and waitlisted applicants are not able to request a deferral until they made an offer of admission. So if you've been on waitlist, you cannot ask deferral until we will send you letter of acceptance. And waitlisted applicants who are not made an offer by September will be able to request a deferral between September 1st and September 30th. So what this means, if you've been on waitlist and you have not been offered admission, you can send request for carryover for the next year starting from September 1st. And coming to the application form, it's pretty straightforward. So as you can see here, if you'd like to request a deferral, you just click international, your first name, middle name, last name, NBCC student ID, your email address. Please indicate your email address as per your application and date of birth. And then you just select the program that you've been accepted. So let's say if I've been accepted to administrative professional in Fredericton campus, and you just indicate your acceptance for September 2020, and you can also, if you've been refused by your visa, you can also attach this your refusal visa, but it's optional and not required, and then you can just click submit your application. And please keep it in mind that you can only defer your acceptance for the same program and the same campus. So a lot of stuff from me, but I hope it makes sense. I will attach this to follow-up email so you can have the links and you can go and see it yourself. And of course, this webinar will be posted on our NBCC International page, and I will try to upload it on YouTube channel as well. So yeah, that's what was from my side, Claire. So let's.
Okay. So yeah, so that is a lot of information for sure. But again, students will be receiving an email about that. I was just speaking with our manager, and if it hasn't been received yet, it's on its way. It's being sent today with that deferral information. But what's important for the immigration consequences, as you were talking about first, Hanny, was so the two things that you talked about are definitely related to immigration and study permit status. And so first you mentioned about what will the fall look like, and it will be blended, you know, a lot of online, but certainly some in-person components because a lot of our programs are physical, you know, trades. So will be a blended model certainly for the fall. And then you said about the deferrals. So what does this all mean for immigration? So a few updates to give most related to that I mentioned last time was that that IRCC has announced that the postgrad work permit will not be impacted as long as you still do, so you can still study online starting in the fall. So that's great news. But the rule is still that it cannot be more than 50% that is online. So that's still the rule. And who I want to talk to most right now about that are students who are coming in for a one-year program, because that's where, you know, maybe you have to do some thinking about what your decision is going to be about this fall and why it is good to have the deferral option, right? Because for international students who are coming in for a one-year program and who do want to work afterwards, who want a postgrad work permit, you know, you would, if you still need to do at least 50% in Canada, that would mean that you'd need to arrive in Canada by December 31st. Okay, so that means you would need to arrive here before the end of this year. And so that's why it is good that there's this deferral option, because I know that everyone right now is trying to make these big decisions and trying to rearrange, your life and what this means. And because for some of our 1-year students, um, depending on the country that you're living in, things, well, we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 6 months, right? We are now 6 months into 2020, and about 4 of those months have been with COVID, right? And we have no idea really what the next 6 months are going to look like. But if you're in a country that, so if you're a student who's coming for a 1-year program, you kind of have to look around and decide what you want to do, whether or not you want to take that risk and hope that maybe things will start to open up and you'll be able to get to Canada by December 31st, or that you take this deferral option and you decide, you know what, I don't want that stress right now to think about the possibilities and possibly change my life in the next 6 months or not, right? Um, then you can take this deferral option and wait till September 2021. So, and as I said, this message is particularly for the 1-year program students, because for 1-year program students, it is the biggest risk because 50% of your program ends in December. So that's just, I just want to put out that fact there. So it's just, so 1-year students, you have the most to, I don't want to say risk, but like it's the most up in the air for you. Because if
Yep.
you're a 2-year student, it doesn't matter. You know, 50% of your course could be until next September. So you
Yep.
have more time and flexibility. Um, but so that's what I wanted to say about how that relates to postgrad work permits and the deferral. Okay. The other few updates I have on immigration are still basically the same from the last webinar. Is that a lot of the VACs are still closed, like most VACs are still closed. So still, but you can still apply online. So just no paper applications, no
Yep.
in-person VAC applications, but do apply online. And biometrics, as I think I said last time, the biometrics have automatically been extended to get your biometrics done usually within 30 days is now 90 days. But what I wanted to share my screen for was, yeah, and I can do that. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, I can.
So with biometrics, what is very important is that when so again, you don't have to contact us for an extension, right? Like that's done automatically. But what is very important is to check this website regularly, to find out when it's reopened, because once it has reopened, you must make an appointment as soon as possible to avoid delays. So like this is still on the student to book your appointment once the VAC has opened. So so what I want to say about that is, again, this website is certainly the best for staying up to date on Canadian immigration
Yep.
news. So just type in, IRCC coronavirus disease, like, and it has all of the VACs, immigration, like workers, students, visas. So yes, so not much has changed in terms of everything I've said before with restrictions, except for now with NBCC's deferral option. Um, now you have an option, I guess, of
Yep.
what you're going to do. So, all right.
And I
So
and I,
that's, yeah,
I just want to add something to this, and
sure, for
in
sure.
case, because students start asking me if they need to apply for study permit if they decide to study online.
If what? Sorry,
So
I don't
it's
know if the
a
internet
lot,
just cut out. Yeah.
a lot of students asking if they decide to study online, do they need to apply for study permit?
Yes, you do. Good question. So
Yep.
yes, you do, because as I said, unless you don't, unless you're not interested, if you're only interested in the Canadian education and not coming to Canada or working in Canada, you can always do online education from wherever you are. Like, there are lots of programs like across Canada that you can study online anywhere in the world. But what most of our students are interested in, or a lot of students are, is coming to Canada, for that experience, and then working in Canada, and maybe eventually staying as a permanent resident. And if that is your goal, then yes, you still need to apply for a study permit as soon as possible. As soon as possible, do it online, get the biometrics when those start to open up, and try to go ahead as normal as possible. Um, yeah, and I would say the last thing I'll say on immigration before we get to some questions is that, so for example, if students who are who have submitted their study permit already, and but they're in a 1-year program and they're thinking, okay, maybe I just want to defer. What happens to my study permit? What if I get my study permit, but I've decided to defer? Um, like what if you get it in November, but you're not going to start until September 2021? That's not a problem. What happens is that as long as you come to Canada with your valid study permit, from within Canada, you can apply for a study permit extension. So, so even if you decide to defer, but you get your study permit anyway, just make sure you come to Canada before that study permit expires, and then when you're in Canada, you apply for a study permit extension. I can help you through that if that's your plan. Okay, so a lot of information we've both just given you.
Yep.
But does that make sense? Yeah.
It does. It does. Yeah,
Okay.
because students, just keep it in mind that you would need to provide the proof of your study permit to NBCC, so we can upload your
Yeah.
file. So just if you are thinking about joining fall 2020 and it's going to
Yep.
be online, you would still need to apply for visa and provide
That's right.
us status of your study permit.
That's right. If you're coming to Canada, you need a study permit. So we are going to answer, those are all of our updates. There were a lot of updates, obviously. That's why we've taken so much more time than usual. But and a lot of the questions that we had 2 weeks ago, we went through them, the screenshots that we took. Most of them were about fall 2020, about study permit, and about fall intake, deferrals, all of that. And so that's what we've covered. But Henny, I had about 5 questions that weren't related to that. They're just different. So
Okay,
this is gonna be a lightning round, okay? Okay.
sure.
So the first question I had was that a student did get their visa rejected, but they want to reapply, and they wanted to know if uh, I had any recommendations on how to best reapply. And I'm gonna, sorry, just I'm gonna share my screen again. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so again, for international students, visa permits and immigration. Oh, sorry. So, um, so if you had your study permit rejected, please go to our resources and guides on our NBCC website, and you will see study permit refusal advice. So this is a document I created around this time last year, and so the rejection based on purpose of visit, family ties, personal assets, travel history. So please, if you have been rejected and you want to reapply, go and check this. Okay. So that's my answer to that first question.
Yep.
The second one's for you, Henny. A student wants to change campuses. How do they do that? Can they do that? What's that process?
It's a great question. I'm not sure what do you mean by change camp. Would you like to change your program?
It might
If
be, let's say it's the same program, but wanted to change the campus.
Okay, so I will just share my screen and guide students how to do so. And me a second. So for students who'd like to change their campus or program, there is a opportunity and option to do it. And can you see my screen, Claire?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
So if you go at admission and finance and click how to apply, there is a application program change request. So all you need to do if you'd like to change campus or your program and you apply it, you just click here and fill it out the form here, and that's how it works. And our admission
Awesome.
office will get back to you. Hope it
Perfect.
was helpful. Yep.
Very helpful. Okay.
Yep.
Next one was about SDS, this student direct stream way of applying. They said, do we pay for tuition in advance? How do we pay? And the answer is yes. For the SDS, student direct stream way of applying for your study permit, which is limited to certain countries, you do have to, one of the requirements is that you pay your tuition in advance, your 1 year of tuition, and you can do that online. We do recommend Pay My Tuition, which is one of the payment options
Yep.
in NBCC. So that's quick and easy. Henny, someone wanted to know, do we have access to previous webinars? How can we see previous webinars?
So it's a great question. There is a few ways to see previous webinars. One of those, and let me just show my screen again. So if you go at admission finance, click resources, and here you can see our pre-arrivals webinars that we did for the fall 2019. So you can see, and just keeping in mind that the information is still relevant, but it could be outdated because COVID-19 has impact on us. Oh, and that's how we can see webinars. And also we got our NBCC international page here, where I usually put important messages, and I post the webinars. This webinar will be posted on NBC and Facebook international page as well, and also
So
at our NBCC
the recording,
YouTube,
yeah.
yeah, NBCC YouTube channel. There is also some of the live sessions that we did is available. Just scroll it here and you will see our faces. So it means that's was our webinar. Here we go, NBC pre-roll webinar for housing. It's old one, but there is some new one, and this one, the recording of this webinar I also will upload on NBC YouTube channel, because some of the students asked me
Awesome.
because they have,
Yeah.
yeah, troubles with.
So we're getting them up. Yeah, we're getting the recordings up on YouTube and Facebook as often as possible. So,
Yep.
Last two questions, one for you, one for me. Does NBCC accept university transcripts instead of high school transcripts?
Yes, it does. As you may know, many of our programs only require you to have high school transcript or graduate certificate, but some students cannot obtain this kind of documents. If you have university transcript or WES evaluation, you can submit this as well. And at this time, because of COVID-19, you can, with a new application, you'll be able to upload documents online through your account, or if you applied and have not sent documents due to disruption, you can send it to international at NBCC, so we can send you transcript directly via email.
Cool. Awesome. And the last question was, a student said last time that they were approved for their study permit online. Like they got a message from IRCC saying that their study permit was approved on March 11th.
Okay.
But they, for example, did not get their visa, their sticker in their passport because the VAC closed down. And so because March 18th was that cutoff when they said, if you were approved before then, you can come in. If after, it's still undecided. But so the students asking if they are still eligible. And the wording on the IRCC website is that anyone who was who received their study permit or was approved for a study permit before March 18th is eligible so to come into Canada. So this student is okay, and but you will still need to wait until you get that extra document, your visa, TRV, in your passport. Um, but yeah, you're on the right path, so you should be pretty safe for coming as soon as you can. So those were all the questions that were not related to what we talked about in our news updates. So now for the last 25 minutes, do we want to go to live questions?
Sure. I just review some of the questions and
Okay.
they related to what we said. And
Okay.
guys, if you have not, if you join us a little bit later, I will pause this webinar on YouTube and NBC Facebook page so we can watch it again. Just, not to repeat the same information. Just want to say there is a deferral option available for students.
Mm-hmm.
And students ask me if I need to renew my IELTS certificate at Duolingo. No, you don't have to. If you choose to defer your application, you don't have to submit any other documents or pay any additional fee. Just follow the step on our deferral page, and
Yep.
that's what it takes. Another question, Claire, might be relevant to you because one of the students said that Canadian Service Board Agency need a formal letter from the schools that says that we need to be physically present in Canada. And at this time, NBCC is still working on which class is going to be would request you to come to Canada. Some of them would not request you to come to Canada, so you can do it online. And yeah, if you have anything to add or your
Yeah,
insight
no,
to it.
that's, I appreciate that. Essentially, I appreciate that flagging of that issue. What, as I'm sure everyone can imagine, NBCC has a lot of details to figure out right now, between now and the fall. And so I'm sure there's probably a question in there about our quarantine plan too. And there are questions about, yeah, which classes are going to be in person, which are not. Um, these are things we are still working out. Like essentially, webinar by webinar, we've got a little bit more information that we're able to provide, but we don't have everything yet. So
Yep.
with that letter, it's going to be a fun challenge for me to find out from our 90 plus programs, to find out which ones are going to be in person, like which physical parts are going to be in person for the fall and when, so that we can provide those necessary documents especially for international students. So we're working on it, but for right now, I do not have that yet. So
Yeah, and as per our academic teams, the students will receive the letter if their classes would require them to come to Canada, as I understand. So, but
yeah,
just stay tuned for more information,
yeah.
and we will
So
provide you updates as soon as it will be available.
yeah, good question, and yeah,
Yep.
thanks.
Here's a question about deferral of human resource management to May 2021. Unfortunately, human resource management is not available for May because we don't have May intake. We have only intake in April, and it's business administration accounting. So if you'd like to defer human resource management, it would be in September 2021. Okay. There is a question about the spring intake letter of acceptance. Our admission team, I communicate on this case, and you will receive the letter of acceptance for fall 2020 shortly. Our admission team, as you may know, our admission office has been closed for almost 2 months. They get back to work last couple of weeks, so there is a lot of things to do, and the letter of acceptance for spring intake students who couldn't come this spring because the classes has been canceled. You will receive your letter acceptance shortly, hopefully within 2 weeks. Here's a question: is that deferring will affect the tuition fees? It is a good question, and the tuition fee is subject to change. Right now, there is some information available for changing in tuition fee, and there will be adjustment of tuition fee for international students by $186 per year. So it's I just want to share my screen and show where's this information. It's per NBCC fall intake under AFIQ. You can
Oh, yeah.
you can see that NBCC is adjusting domestic fee by $66 per year, and international tuition fee will be adjusted to $186, which is not as much, compared to what other colleges may have, or so. Yeah, it would be adjustment, but once again, tuition fees is subject to change at any time. So I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, I think yeah, students may have that question for sure about online delivery versus in person, thinking that it may be cheaper. However, at the same time, we still have the same number of instructors to employ. Most, because we are a college, unlike universities, they might be able to close down classrooms because they can deliver all of their lectures online. NBCC is a bit different because we have very practical courses. So a lot of our fees, or a lot of our costs to run the college, are pretty similar to what they were before COVID. Like, we will still be using a lot of the same facilities because our programming requires us to be on campus. So that's why, if students are curious why there's not why isn't there a tuition like reduction, then because if it's online, so that's why, because NBCC is very much still on campus as well, and so it still costs to keep those campuses running and to employ as the same number of staff. So
Yeah.
so just to give that explainer, because I'm sure a lot of students have
Yep.
that question.
And
So
it's also part of our FAQ for this, because as you can see on our website, I'm sharing my screen right now,
okay,
because NBTC is continuing to provide the same
yeah,
product. We're not offering rebates because we have. And we just keeping in mind we have a numbers of brochures and scholarships available to international students, and you can find them by the link.
yeah,
But this only
yes,
applies to students who's been accepted to NBCC.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So once you arrive in Canada, those scholarships and bursaries are available to you. Yeah, so that continues on.
So here's a question about the delivery method, and so in terms of delivery method, you will receive the separate communication in regards to your specific program, because
Mm.
some of the program can be done online, some would you need to require to come to Canada, and
Yeah,
this information will be uh, delivered to you a little bit later.
yeah. It's kind of program by program.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a question about Claire, do you think that the announcement of the program being blended can help us through immigration? Hopefully, yes.
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
So, do you think that the announcement of the program being blended can help us through immigration?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, so as mentioned before, as long as no more than 50% of your course is done online, then you're still fine. And in terms of being physically in Canada, or being physically here to complete some of the programs, that is going to be program by program. And so that's my fun task of helping support students with that information. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Great. And there is a question that I believe we answered about the transfer of application. Does this mean that I'm going to receive the new letter of acceptance, and would my seat would be guaranteed? And as I mentioned before, the application, when you ask for deferral, it means that your application will be deferred, and our admission team would need to verify that seats available. And if there is a seats, you will definitely going to be accepted, and you will receive the new letter of acceptance for September 2021. And I see another question for you, Claire,
Okay.
about if you can provide any suggestion. Just let me read it here. It's for students who got the study permit. Would you recommend them to come, or would you recommend them to postpone for September 2021?
Okay, good question.
Yep.
So for those students who have received their study permit, I mean, I think, yeah, you're certainly the lucky ones. So because I know that a lot of students are experiencing longer than usual waits even to get their study permit. So when you've got your study permit already, so that's half the battle. Like so that's good news that you've got your study permit. Um, and but then when it comes to my recommendation on whether or not you should come, it it very much depends, I think, on your country, on your personal situation, um, on how it, like I don't know. There are a lot of factors that I can't just recommend everyone do one thing or the other, whether you should come or not come. That's very much on each student and their situation. Um, but I can say that having your study permit is, as I said, half the battle. That's a I don't know, Canadian expression, English expression. Um, that's half of the challenge. Like that's a big part of the challenge already is getting that study permit. So if you've done that, you're in a good position. So it's just in terms of getting your flight, whether or not your border is open to be able to leave, um, what is your current family situation like, like as I said, there are a lot of factors that I'm unable to tell you come or not come, um, but if you have a study permit, that's great news. That's yeah, you're halfway there. So does that make sense,
Yes.
Hanny? Yeah,
It does, because it's a little bit like it's decisions that everyone need to make, and the students also asking about the quarantine, because if that is
right,
a question, like because it's
of course,
quarantine, would you recommend to come and quarantine myself, or
for
just
sure.
in case?
And
Yeah.
and we are while we that wasn't part of our news updates today, we do not yet have a set plan for quarantining, and of course that will be a requirement, yeah, regardless, that that's a requirement for Canada, that's a requirement for every province. So you will need to self-isolate for 14 days, and NBCC is working on what that looks like for our students. So we'll let you know when we know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question here about can a student with a study permit attend classes online from his home country? And
Yes.
I think yes.
Yes. Yes, you
Yeah.
can. So that's the great news. So that was part of our announcements at the beginning. You can, as long as it's still 50% or less. So that's online from your home country. So
And here is a question about study permit application process, because in Nigeria, students say they cannot really access the embassy.
yeah, well, yeah, a lot of the embassies and the VACs, visa application centers, are closed. Um, but what you can do is you can apply for your study permit online, okay? But then the biometrics or the visa components, like some of those things are slowed down for sure. Um, so that you'll need to wait. Like that's why there is flexibility with the Canadian government knowing that students are going to be slowed down by that. That's why, essentially, uh, yeah, we're saying that you almost have until December to get here type thing. So um, that's the reason why we are understanding that a lot is closed down around the world. So just do what you can when you can. So right now you can apply for a study permit online. So do that. And then hopefully things will start to slowly open up and you'll be able to do more.
Yep. And here I have a question about waitlist applicants. And as I mentioned before, waitlist applicants would cannot defer their application. And however, if you have not been offered admission, you can send a request to carry over your your application starting from September 1st. What is fall 2020 tuition due date? And due date for tuition is usually first week of your classes. Usually, I would say, as a per last year, if I recall correct, it was September 6th.
6th,
Yep.
yeah. September 6th, yeah.
And
We both
I received,
remember the same date, so it must
yeah,
be that.
and I also receive a lot of questions in terms of personal cases that I cannot discuss it live, and
Okay.
I just send a link to international at NBC Facebook page, so just you can ask me there or send your question to international at NBCC, because I cannot, unfortunately, we cannot discuss your personal cases live, so it would be case by case scenario. Okay, just want to go through the questions. So it's a good question. I know NBCC says that classes will be mixed, but is there any chance that something can be, different by fall 2020? Well, so I would say that nobody knows what's going to happen by fall 2020.
Yeah.
As for now, that's the information that is available, and that's what we can tell you for now, that you can defer your application or you can come, because it's hard to predict what's going to happen in the next, I would say, 3 months. And in regards to the seats availability list, the seats availability list has been updated in May 29, so you can check what is available on our website. Just want to see what's next. Okay. Yeah, there is a lot of emails in regards to specific cases. It is at least
Okay.
send that to NBC International, because yeah. Just in regards with the blended delivery, I just want to know when exactly we have to be in Canada to purchase. So this information will be communicated with you in additional emails, and as soon as we have information specifically for different programs, we'll definitely let you know.
Yes.
Does NBCC provide entrance scholarship for postgraduate program? Unfortunately, NBCC does not provide entrance scholarship. All our scholarship designed for accepted NBCC students.
So as soon as, I was going to say, as soon as you arrive in September, or as soon as you start your program in September, at that time, scholarships will open up. So.
Yep. And it's a question about the adjustment of fees. Should students pay the fees that is outlined on our website, or should they take into account the adjustment of $186? And I would, yeah, I would say you can pay both, and in case you would, I mean, NBC does not require you to pay your tuition fee until you come start, so you just wait and pay later if you want to pay.
Except for SDS students.
SDS,
So
yeah.
So you can like I have not been on the tuition fees, whether or not that is updated on the tuition fees. I'm assuming it
Not
is
yet.
or is not yet.
Not yet.
So
Yep.
so you can go ahead and add the $186 in, for example, pay my tuition and add that extra $186 because you put in how much you want to pay. And it will just it will, if it's not applied right away, the only thing is that it would sit there as a credit, so it would um, be that extra money on your account. But that is what the tuition is increasing to. So you could, or you could continue to owe that 100. It's all up to you. I would add it because that has been mentioned that that will be the increase. So,
Yep.
but as Hanny just said, you don't need to pay your tuition unless you are in advance, unless you are a SDS student.
Yep. So we got the questions in regards to the Claire, in regards to the immigration, since
Yep.
classes will be offered online, do you know if RCC will adjust proof of funds for students?
That's a really good
It
question.
is, it is,
I
yep,
have not heard that question yet.
yep,
Um, I have not heard that yet. Um, but because one thing that is important to note is that um, yeah, that proof of funds are to show for the amount of time that you're in Canada. So, for example, for the amount of time that you're in Canada and you're studying. For example, with students who are in Canada and they um, completed or nearly completed a program and they just need one course to complete in the fall, for example. So they need to do a study permit extension of 4 months. One thing the good news I tell them is that you don't need to show the full $10,000. You only need to show $4,000 because you're only going to be here studying an extra 4,000, or sorry, 4 months. So that's about $4,000. So proof of funds is always calculated based on how long you're going to be in Canada. Because we don't know at this point how long you're going to be in Canada, I would still say that you should have as much proof of funds as they were requiring originally. However, yeah, I don't know. They might be a bit more lenient if you're not going to be here as long. But at the same time, because there aren't as many part-time jobs for students, they might take that into consideration and keep the proof of funds as they are. Because, so I, sorry, I'm talking this out of my head. I I would try to have as close to the original proof of funds as possible, which is about $10,000 living expenses. So NBCC tuition is approximately 10,000, living expenses approximately 10,000. So you should have approximately $20,000 to study in Canada for 1 year.
yep.
Okay. So
Thank you.
sorry, I haven't heard that
And
question, so I had to talk
yeah,
it out.
it's a good, yeah, because I'm just browsing through the questions and
Yeah,
a lot of them
you know.
repeat,
Mhm.
and I found this kind of original question. And
Yeah,
also there is a question about deferral for students who had the visa for their spouse and children.
yeah.
If they would like to defer, would they need to extend this? I believe you already mentioned it previously. So if
Well,
students
mhm.
submit application for deferral and they already have the visa, what's their course of actions?
Yeah, so it would be the same for if if you've already got your study permit and your family already has their well, again, kids don't, the other members of your family might not have an actual permit before you come to Canada, um, but if you're deciding not to come yet and you're deferring to next fall, then yes, when you do actually come into Canada and extend, it would be for everyone. So um, yes, I hope that answers that question. Uh, so to respect the time that we usually stick to, so to the 1 hour, I don't know how many extra questions there are, Hanny, but if you want to
Yep,
take
I
some
will I will
screenshots or,
take the screenshots and we will
okay.
address them again. I just want to say that students who join us a little bit later,
Mhm.
that they can watch this webinar in recording on our NBCC YouTube channel and Facebook page. So please watch our webinar, and I also add chapters so you don't have to watch the whole webinar. I just want to put chapters in regards to the specific topics that we covered here.
Okay,
Just give me a
awesome.
second to just take the screenshots and yep, all the questions because we have a lot as
Oh
always.
yeah,
And I just want to remind the students that we have Ask at NBCC database. So if you have more questions, you can see our frequently asked database, or if you have more questions, you can reach to me at Facebook International page or send inquiry to International at NBCC. Please keep in mind that at this time we a little bit behind the schedule in answering email because we receive a large amount of email, so it may
yeah,
take time. And
yeah.
our next webinar going to be in 2 weeks, so
Hmm.
please stay tuned and hopefully we're gonna have more information that will shed the light for fall intake and course delivery method.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
we're giving you information as we get it. So doing our best.
Yep. As I'm taking the screenshot of the questions, if there's anything that you would add or
No,
wish to our students.
yeah, no, I mean, I hope that everyone's taking care out there. I know that this is definitely um a stressful and scary time for sure with COVID going on in the world. Uh, Obviously, everyone's been watching riots and protests and riots happening in the U.S. and Canada. We've been here in New Brunswick. We've had large demonstrations, peaceful protests in Moncton and in Fredericton, and even some smaller communities around New Brunswick, which has been really good to see. I was at one on Monday, and we'll go to another one on Friday. So I actually, I mean, I don't know if it's in any of those questions, Henny, but I have had students ask me about that right
Yep.
now because they've been seeing that from other parts in the world. They're seeing North America and asking, what's going on, and they're a little bit worried about that. Um, and that's a totally fair concern. Um, and yeah, so all I can say to that is that we are certainly aware of that. We are doing our best, as always, I think, to support our students as best we can. And as a college, we are also having those discussions about how we do better to make our community a more inclusive and supportive place, and try to yeah, combat systemic racism as much as we can. Uh, so that's something else that's obviously going on in the background right now. So want to acknowledge that as as a final part of this webinar. And yeah, there's a lot going on in the world right now. So what we do want to say is that we hope you're taking care of yourselves, and that you're staying safe, that you're staying healthy, and that yeah, you're taking on life day by day, as we all are, right, Henny?
Yep. Thank you, Claire. Yeah, I took the screenshot of all your questions. We'll review them and hopefully we'll prepare answer for
Okay.
some that we did not answer with most updated information.
Yep.
And just want to remind you that our webinar going to be in 2 weeks, and just stay safe and healthy, and see you guys. I just want to check here. Uh, See you in a bit, and yeah, have a great day. And if you need anything else, just send us message on Facebook International page, and see you on June 18th.
Yes, see you June 18th. All right.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.